Good evening, everyone. Good evening. It's Tuesday. And like I said last week, I promised to be back this week. I'm just going to do a quick check and make sure everything looks good on the other side of things. Um, yep, looks like we are going live. Awesome. Okay, everyone, it's Tracy. And I'm here with you on Tough Love Tuesday. A little bit of a glitch, and I'm good. Okay, sorry about that. All right. Happy Tuesday, everyone. I want to thank everyone for all their support last week when I went live for the first time in almost 7 months, and just was incredible. And I'm just so grateful for your support, helping me make that big step, and getting the courage to come back and start doing and serving, as I believe my purpose is to serve through these broadcasts. And I know that Dave would want me to keep going. So tonight, I got the idea to talk about this topic, staying, how we can stay healthy, keep our health through times of loss, and we know there's so much going on in the world today, and in our personal lives and friends' lives, of things that just happen to us, right? And as I mentioned in the text for this post, it could be loss of a friend, loss of a loved one, losing a home, a job, a pet, a beloved little friend, of a pet, a child, you name it. In our life, we are going to be experiencing some form of loss. And, I think all of us watching, or, of you watching, which I want to thank everyone watching live and on the recorded version as well as on the podcast. Thank you for being here. But we're all going to experience it, right? And, me with my logical brain, although I think I'll be ready for anything, sometimes that just isn't the case. And we can kind of lose our way through these areas of loss. So some aspects that I've experienced, have been the pets and the career. And when I lost my career in the housing crisis, I didn't handle it very well. So I got extremely depressed and tried to smile. I was smiling on the outside, right? And just going to do another check here. I think I see a possible issue on one of the feeds. Hopefully you guys can see me on my page. It might be something wrong going on, but I see that people are watching. So whoever's able to see me, excellent. So anyway, when I lost my job, it didn't go well. So I didn't know anything different. I was the job, when Dave passed, I was his wife. When I lost my kitties, that kitty was my cat. So we associate so much with our position, with our home, with our relationships, and all of those things. So it can be hard. And I know I went down this hill of in 2008 when the iPhone had just come out and had all these games on it, and so I just sat on the couch for a while and I played these silly games on my phone, and so it wasn't the best way. And then I was, I was still on the realm. I had been diagnosed pre-diabetic. And so I experienced loss of my health, and I felt like a terrible person because how could I have let my health fall? It was just another thing. And so sometimes we can tailspin in those types of losses and be really hard on ourselves. And so, um, I I wanted to talk about that too. We can get so caught up and in a loss because it changes our world. It changes and leaves a space open that we weren't expecting. We don't know quite how to handle, and then we don't maybe know how to be in the world now as a, gosh, you're really a different person, because we can label ourselves, like I said, construction project manager, estimator. That was me. And then all of a sudden I wasn't. I was Dave's wife. All of a sudden I'm not. So how do we get through those things when we like to know what we think we know what's going to happen tomorrow, or we want to know, our brains want to know that we're in control. So, um, what happened this time because of those prior experiences, um, uh, I knew I that and because of my training too and what I do today, I knew there were certain things I had to do to take care of myself. And but during those first months, I really needed to surrender and let other people, take care of me. And I do kind of have a funny story to tell. There was one time I was starting to make my own smoothies again, and I was in this fog. That was the other thing. I got COVID after Dave passed. And so I was kind of sick and just not feeling good and had a lot of brain fog. And I didn't put the cap on the smoothie container very well. So I was walking through my place and I tilted it up and it went all down the front of me. And I luckily was in the entry just about to get on the carpet. It was all over me, and I had spilled it all down the front, and I was just my son was, at the other end of the room. I just looked at him, I'm like, I started crying because I was just like, "Oh my word." And I didn't wanna move because I knew red smoothie was gonna be all over everything. And so stuff just happens, when we're in these states, right? So, so tonight, like I said, I just wanted to talk about that a bit and just a little bit of things that happened to me. Again, after I lost my job, also, after Dave passed. But the reason I picked this topic was my a dear friend of mine, sent me this book, and it's called Healing After Loss. And this one's in specifically for grieving of loss of a family or a friend or anybody like that. And this book has been so instrumental and helpful to me. And you read um, there's a date at the top, and you read something each day. And so I've been really committed to reading this book, and I really recommend it to anybody. It's Healing After Loss: Daily Meditations for Working Through Grief by Martha Hickman. So it's just been great. So on December 8th, this is what it says. It's there's always a little, a quote at the top, then her perception of it, and then a really nice mantra or meditation at the bottom. But I'd like to take time to read the December 8th. And so Lily Pincus said this, and that's the little quote at the top, was, "When I asked the orthopedic surgeon who treated me whether people often fracture bones after bereavement, he said, without even looking up from my injured foot, naturally, people lose their sense of balance," which I definitely lost my sense of balance in both experience of grief, grief of my pets, loss of my job, loss of my health, and especially loss of Dave. I definitely lost my balance. And so she goes, sometimes it's not as specific as that, the body reacting with its own wounds to a wound of mind and spirit. But it is well known that after a serious loss, our bodies are more prone to injury and disease. So it behooves us to take particularly good care of ourselves, to be more careful about our diet, about driving when we're tired, and to try to get some extra rest. Do we have more accidents because we're depressed and don't care as much about keeping ourselves healthy, even keeping ourselves alive? Are we careless because we're preoccupied with grief? Is there something in the chemistry of grief that affects our immune system and makes it harder for our bodies to fight infection? The relationship between mind and body is being examined as never before, and there's much that we still don't know, but we do know we are at extra risk, and in deference to ourselves and to those we love, we would do well to take the best care of ourselves that we can. And at the bottom, she says, I have much to live for, and I'll live for it better if I'm healthy. And so this really, really spoke to me. And I really wanted to share it because, um, we talk about the grief, and she talks about driving. I was not allowed to drive for like a month. So um, I proved that I was not capable. So driving in me was not a good idea. So that is true. But this page made me look up, yeah, what does happen to us when we're grieving or in facing loss? And here are some things that can happen to our body. So this is from the National Library of Medicine, Dialogues in Clinical Neuroscience. And research to date suggests that bereavement is associated with cortisol response. So cortisol response is high stress. That's just, amping up stress levels, altered sleep, immune imbalance, inflammatory cell mobilization, platelet platelet activation, as well as changes to heart rate and blood pressure, especially in the early months following a loss. So I know I experienced every single one of those, but I can't state that I had anything going on with my platelets because I didn't have anything tested for that. But I did. I had high stress. My heart rate was just pounding like this, and especially during the weekday was in the hospital, no sleep, just high octane, just high cortisol, no sleep, altered sleep. Um, and I know with stress, you do have things happen. Your body is less capable um, in terms of its immune strength. Okay, and that's a good point just to tell everybody. If you're walking with just total stress every single day out of a habit, that is hindering your immune system. And so really working with stress management is so important. So I think that's a lot of the reason too I got COVID, because I got COVID, probably 2 weeks after he passed. And I think because after he had passed, I just tanked, just exhausted and all of those things. Um, so anyway, these physical things happen. And again, it still happens too. If you've lost a job, you've lost your home, you lost a child, a pet, you go through periods, right? So, so anyway, it does behoove us to allow ourselves to sleep, and then allow for others to love us and to care for us um, as best possible during the firsts, and even so, as much as a little pet, our friend, our furry companions, we feel that their absence, right? So, one one thing that I got to was I finally got to a point I knew I couldn't live in that state of extreme sadness and bereavement and anguish every day where you wake up and I just something's I've got to make a change. I don't know how this is going to happen, but something's got to happen to, for me. And like I said, that book, and then also my sister, is another book that's been helpful, is the Sudden Loss Survival Guide: 7 Essential Practices for Healing Grief, Chelsea Hansen. This book has been, I can't do it right. Okay, it's all opposite. Chelsea Hansen. So very helpful. And then through this pathway of as I've gone through this process, um, knowing what it was like to totally crash after losing my job, I knew I couldn't go there before. Having been pre-diabetic, I knew that there was potential for me to rebound backwards and possibly lose my health in that fashion. And I knew I had enough, you know, um, willpower in me. I knew that couldn't be an option for me. I also knew in the times when I was just very grief stricken and questioning why I was even here and how I was going to move on without this amazing person in my life, I still had people here that, I love and I want to be with. And so the other option of giving up totally, which wasn't, something that I could do. Right. Um, but I had to figure out how can I live now and figure out who I am as under these new circumstances. So I also started, so one thing that helped me, and I did a little bit of this beforehand, but one thing that's really helped me is meditation and breathing technique. Calming this front part of my brain. Okay, this area that's just so noisy and it's all back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. But bringing in more of a conscious thought process, literally, it's weird. Like when thinking through, so it's weird. It's kind of cool. If you think more towards the back of your head and watch your emotions. I started to watch my emotions, grief, a couple minutes of sadness and grief, and I would watch. And then I was having issues feeling okay being happy sometimes. So I watched that and I started to feel more complete as a person and more complete in how my mind was processing finally. It was like almost I was coming back online, if that makes sense. But calming my breathing, relaxing my body, which was so hyper stressed, was really, really important. Um, and then being a health coach, I knew, and a trainer, I knew my body needed to move. And so some of you might remember some of my posts on my public page. I would just go outside. I didn't know where I was going to walk. And I just walk. I would just slowly walk, right? Oh, I think I'm frozen. Okay, good. So I would go out and I would just walk. I knew I had to walk. And that was also time when I could grieve and I could think and process, right? So getting your body moving and just getting up and moving. It doesn't have to be aggressive. It doesn't have to be like, you may lose strength. I did. I've lost a lot of strength. I used to be able to do my full, on push-ups. I'm getting those back. I lost physical capacity. Um, these are the things that happen. I would try and exercise, like do my kettlebell swings, and I would just start crying, in the beginning. I just, everything was so disorienting, just like the quote in the book said, just you're just disoriented. So I thought, okay, fine. I can't do that right now. And I'll just go for walks. The other thing I knew was nutrition. Nutrition is key. It was wonderful. I had people coming over to see me. And I am going to turn this one off because it looks like it's causing issues. Did my computer freeze? Okay, hold on. Okay, I'm back. I'm back. Okay, sorry about that. All right. Okay, so I think I'm still there. Can somebody Okay, I'm gonna keep talking, but, so I know nutrition was key for me, and therefore finding a way to nourish my body was important. I had people bringing me food, which was amazing, but also with that came a lot of wine, and so what I noticed was that during that time when the wine was coming, I actually had more anxiety, more anxiousness, more depressed feelings the next day. And so I keyed that together. It wasn't good. And so I pulled back on that. Um, again, we don't want to use wine or alcohol to try and cover our hurt and our grief because it just exasperates the situation. So I caught that that was happening, and so that was something I had to stop. But, um, anyone that is a client of mine, you all know I'm all about nutrition, 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 and so, I thought, "Okay, how can I possibly, um, get nutrition back into my life," right? And I think it's frozen again. Yep. Where's my phone? Okay. Here we are again. I love technology. Oh my goodness, I love technology. Okay, so I started small. I'm a very much a proponent of smoothies for nutrition purposes, not necessarily for losing weight, but for getting as much nutrition as I can. And so I would make the smoothies in a Vitamix or something like that, which no real recipe, but making sure I had greens in there, some blueberries, vegetarian protein powder. It didn't matter what it tasted like. I just knew I had to do something like that. So, okay. Okay. So Julia says she can still see. Okay. Anyway, so just little things, taking time, thinking again from a broader spectrum of looking at everything and realizing everyone's going to grieve different. Everyone's going to handle things a little different. You're going to know when it's time to do certain things that maybe, don't work for somebody else in terms of how you step forward through through other aspects of your life. But the biggest key, and I feel bad, I lost a little traction in my thought process because of my what I'm seeing on this end technology wise. But one one important thing is one day, hopefully, we can once I took the focus off of me, and I surrendered to the future, I surrendered to the unknown. I was able to and I started to function from I'm just going to be an open-hearted person, and I'm going to emulate gratitude. I want to emulate joy, open-heartedness, kindness, those types of things, because that's what I know that's how Dave lived, but also I realized I couldn't live in that deep grief space any longer, right? So again, my screen is frozen again, so I'm hoping you can see me. And again, the benefit of going live on a broadcast, which I think I've lost everything at this point, even my mouse. So I'm going to hope that you're still out there and say that um, 7 months into all this, several years, oh gosh, 2008, I lost my job. 2006, I was pre diabetic. There is another side, and we have the ability to create our life and our future, and live our best life that we can possible. So I may have to repeat this podcast because, yeah, I've lost the capacity, I think, to run it at this point. So that's the way the life is. I'm fine with it. I will deal with the unexpected. All right, everyone, take care. Bye bye. Okay, everyone. Well, my computer went down during the broadcast. It had started freezing up, and I didn't realize, I think it was going into low power mode because I didn't plug it into the power. So, anyway, I will be re recording this broadcast behind the scenes, and I'll repost it up, and I'll have it up on the podcast as well for everybody. Gotta love technology and me right now. I'll talk to you soon. Bye.